That title alone probably threw you for a loop, but it got you to click on the video, didn't it? Chris Brown has dominated the decades with his non-stop rotation of hits, but whether we want to admit it or not, the R&B icon just isn't the man you think he is. Or maybe he's exactly who you think he is. He's gone through his fair share of public mishaps and scrutiny. In case you were living under a rock back in 2009, his brutal altercation with Rihanna being the start of his ongoing array of accusations and criminal behavior. Since that unfortunate day, the media has gone through hell and high waters in the hopes of getting any dirt on Christopher. Some accurate, others not so much. His ride-or-die fans, however, seem to believe that the Chris Brown hate is solely that. Yet all of the information we've gathered may say otherwise. Zendaya, Karrueche, Tinashe, and a hell of a lot more would like a word. Simmer down, Breezy fans. Ever heard of the saying, the truth shall set you free, but first it'll piss you off? Well, be prepared to be more pissed off than a baby's diaper. Chris Brown came up in the early 2000s, giving us R&B and pop hits after hits with his first couple of albums, spawning singles like Excuse Me Miss, Run It, Poppin', y'all know the songs. His goofy persona that hasn't seemed to change much, dimples, and overall talent shooting Christopher up the mainstream ladder. He was the it boy of his time and 106 & Park's Video Countdown, but also the acting side of things, appearing in movies like This Christmas and lasted all of 10 seconds in the 2007 dance film Stomp the Yard, and making guest appearances in TV shows like Disney's The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and One-on-One. Chris Mania was in full effect, making teen girls and women swoon thanks to his charisma and, of course, his looks. Christopher even got the nod of approval from some of the greatest to ever do it, like his idol, the one and only Michael Jackson, and has cultivated one of the most loyal fan bases of all time, which unfortunately may have played a role in the decline of his reputation. Instead of his music being the center of everyone's interest related to anything Team Breezy, his antics and reckless behavior has often taken the center stage of his career. That's not to say that his music hasn't been poppin' or that his music endeavors have stalled. In fact, it seems as though his music has only gotten more popular despite his problematic ways. Almost as if everyone forgets he dots women's eyes in his pastime. In no way is this a hate video, but we speak facts over here and do love the truth sprinkled with a little mess. Starting with the incident that single-handedly altered the trajectory of his career as he knew it, calling Robin Rihanna Fenty to the stage. Chris and Riri began dating around the year 2007, when the two were both rising artists at the top of their game. Rihanna had us all grasping for our umbrellas, and Chris had us professing our love to strangers with his song, With You. When the confirmation announcement of their relationship hit the blogs, the media couldn't get enough of the two. Rihanna couldn't get brought up without mentioning Chris, and vice versa. Their public appearances together often got the public's attention, no matter which event they attended. Yeah, we're at a charity nonprofit to support the homeless. But did you see Chris and Rihanna though? Unfortunately, on one cold February night, all of that changed. After a long night of drinking and partying at a Clive Davis event, Ree and Chris hopped in his Lamborghini to drive back home, but it was no calm journey by any means. Tipsy off the liquor, Rihanna had already been upset that night due to Chris's old fling showing up unannounced to the event. What makes matters even worse was that this fling was actually someone who had and was still working for him. When Rihanna asked if the pair was still pairing, Chris denied any and all involvement with her, only to find out that was a lie. At this point, the trust was severely broken. Yet Rihanna stayed, and here she was boo-hoo crying, because the girl Chris told her not to worry about was acting as if she was his main chick. As they were driving, Chris behind the wheel and Rihanna as passenger, Ree brought the incident back up. Chris, not thinking anything of it, told her she could check his phone if she didn't believe him, and will. Rihanna snatched the phone up off of Chris's lap, scrolled to the messages, and found things she didn't like. One in particular being from old girl who sent Chris a "see you at the Clyde party" text. In Rihanna's mind, Chris had set this whole thing up and knew the other girl was going to be there. Not only that, but she was bold enough to come up to his and Ree's table as if Ree wasn't even there. The discovery sent Rihanna in a rage of "I hate yous" upon other profane laced language. Throwing the phone, she began to slap him, The hits escalated, and before he knew it, Chris punched her with a closed fist, busting her lip. Battered and bloodied, Rihanna spat in his direction, which further angered him. At this point, it was a full-on Ike and Tina moment in a Lambo, and yes, the car was still in motion. Eventually, Ree reached for his walnuts, causing Chris to bite her. They pull over, car parked, she takes the keys out of the ignition unbeknownst to Christopher and pretends to throw them out the window, when in actuality she ends up sitting on them whilst yelling for help. Attempting to calm her nerves, Chris then goes to the back to gather his belongings whilst Rihanna is in the front seat scratching up all of his CDs with the keys. The situation soothed, and the next day Chris turned himself in. He ended up pleading guilty and served 5 years of probation, 6 months of community service, and was forced to join a rehab facility for anger management. That recollection came from Chris's own mouth in his 2017 documentary, Welcome to My Life. But the police reports we got after paints a different picture. After Chris pulled to the side of the road, the report stated that he actually reached over Rihanna with his right hand, opened her door, and attempted to force her out. When he wasn't able to since she was wearing a seatbelt, he took his right hand yet again and shoved her head against the passenger window, which caused a raised contusion, which we saw in those distasteful photos. Once Rihanna turned back to him, it states he punched her in the left eye and continued driving, still punching her, causing her mouth to fill with blood. He then stated that he was going, and I quote, beat the shit out of you when I get home. You wait and see. He then snatched her phone out of her hand and threw it out of the window, contrary to his statement claiming that she threw his phone out of the window. One thing led to another. He allegedly had her in a chokehold and a headlock and began punching her even more. It got to a point where the pressure applied to her throat made her go in and out of consciousness. Now, we aren't about to go into full details about the incident, but if you want a thorough breakdown, the reports are all over the web. The incident wrecked Chris's entire career, and he'd go from one of music's favorite it boys to one of the most vilified entertainers in history. No matter how many interviews he gave attempting to right his wrongs, the public just wasn't here for his plea of forgiveness. Rihanna, on the other hand, got everyone's full support and continued striving in her career. We'd even say that her career skyrocketed after the incident. As damaging as it is to have domestic violence on your record and reputation, Chris's career didn't exactly falter like you'd think. If anything, it seems as if his career also skyrocketed after the incident. The mainstream media wasn't rocking with him, but you couldn't tell. He kept giving us hit after hit, and although he was slightly blackballed from the entire industry, it seemed as if everyone and their moms still adored this man. Even big names in the K-pop industry often credit Chris for being their source of inspiration all these years later. The incident didn't seem to put a mark on Chris's career despite all of the backlash and public scrutiny. Yet one thing about the internet, it never forgets. Every so-and-so years, the Chris Brown and Rihanna incident pops back up like an annoying zit that won't go away, making people remember exactly why everyone hated him in the first place. Recently, Chris is back in the media yet again on that bull stuff. But this time, many folks seem to actually be on his side. People think it's the media painting Christopher out to be something he really isn't, using the Rihanna situation as a scapegoat whenever he's in any type of legal or woman-related trouble. No matter how far-fetched or extreme the matter actually may be. But some don't believe that it's the media at all painting him in a bad light. It's Chris himself doing everything the media says he is, then blaming the Rihanna situation as to why everyone is out to get him. So what is the dang truth? As we know, Rihanna has forgiven Christopher publicly for beating the brakes off of her, and the two even collaborated on multiple songs together since that night. In fact, the two even dated for a little while after the fact, which brings us to his relationship with Karrueche Tran. Circa 2011, Chris met Karrueche while she was working as a styling assistant for someone he was working with for an upcoming project. The two hit it off and eventually took their relationship public. This didn't sit well with Rihanna fans by any means, who brought that Karrueche was just a rebound from Rihanna. Whether you believe that or not, Karrueche and Chris dated for more than a decade off and on, and saying their relationship came with a whole lot of baggage is an understatement. In the midst of their relationship, Chris often allegedly cheated on Kay and often bounced between her and Rihanna. It didn't stop Karrueche from taking him back every single time. While the depth of their relationship was kept under wraps, in 2014 we'd be blindsided when Chris announced that he had a baby girl, leaving many to wonder if the child was Karrueche's, since after all, that is your girlfriend, right? Absolutely not. Once Royalty Brown's mother, Nia Guzman, was discovered to be the baby mama, immediately fans realized that the math just wasn't mathing. Chris cheated on Karrueche yet again and had a whole side baby on her, prompting Karrueche to end the relationship once and for all. That didn't stop Christopher, however, from practically stalking and harassing her for years to come. Whenever she and Chris took a break, he often probed at her, going as far as to proclaim his singleness on stage in front of thousands while shouting, "F that chick." But you know, replace chick with the female dog word. Often taking it upon himself to comment under her Insta pictures with passive-aggressive comments, leading his fans to bully her. He also went out of his way to share this on Instagram right after their 2014 breakup. That ride or die act we have fooling the world with obviously ain't working. I was locked up for damn near 4 months and only got one visit from you while you were hosting parties and taking secret trips to Toronto, going on dates with Drake. When this relationship started, you knew what it was and even participated in threesomes. So let's not try to save face for public opinion, because I don't need to play victim so people can take my side. All these celebrity ninjas ain't ish and only focus on themselves. I made it clear to the world who my girl was and made your life equal to mine, even at the cost of me focusing on my career at times. So miss me with the BS. Now they all know the real. He even made sure to tag her. All that only for Kay to tweet, "Ninjas get in their feelings when you break up with them, LOL." He soon enough deleted the post and wrote a follow-up apologizing for being in his feelings, blaming it on being young and dumb. Everybody know I love that girl. However, his love for Kay wasn't enough to leave his blazing persuasion alone, nor was it enough to get his and Rihanna fans off her back. Karate chop, ketchup, kangaroo, kankalon, you name it. Oh, y'all was going in on poor Karrueche, calling her an opportunist and all sorts of stuff. Chris made sure to leave random comments under random photos of Kay. Comments like, "You still want this? Thirst Trap 101. Continue to be a lady, beautiful. You are perfect. Don't let the thought form from anger." This ain't even 5% of the comments he left under Karrueche-related posts. But again, I'm not trying to hold you. Karrueche moved on with ex-NFL player Victor Cruz in 2017 and has been trying to put her past with Chris behind her. Yet, Christopher will not let Miss Tran be great. No shade, boo, but please style him. He looks like he is shopping the mannequin and trying to bargain with the sales manager. Retired wrestler Spanx. Nothing bad or major. Upgrade him, sis. I'll take him around to style him. Not hate, he just needs some game. Christopher, unprovoked, commented a total of 5 times underneath a post of Kay and Victor, and the crazy part about it is that Karrueche wasn't even the one who posted it. The comments were left under a photo Victor had posted. Twitter was divided on whether or not Chris was harassing his ex at this point, but things would escalate even further after Karrueche and some friends were enjoying a night out in LA at Playhouse nightclub when a determined Maurice brought a table right alongside hers. Taking by any means necessary to new heights, he went as far as to follow her outside of the club and shoved himself past her friends, inside of her ride. One thing led to another and Karrueche's driver dropped Breezy off at a friend's house. Hours later, he'd end up right back at her place, demanding she speak to him, but Kay refused. She and her gal pals got the munchies and headed out to a diner, thinking they were in the clear, only for them to realize that Christopher was following them the whole time. Not only that, but she couldn't even enjoy her meal in peace because he refused to leave her alone. Karrueche then went on Iyanla Vanzant's Iyanla Fix My Life to speak more about her past relationship. Karrueche's career was taking off by this point and was being managed by talent manager Jacob York, which triggered Chris to write yet another dissertation under one of her IG posts. "Okay, Miss Tran, I wish you the most successful career ever, but I promise you this. Once this talent you have starts to simmer, so will everyone else, including Jacob. All of your famous friends know you how? Okay, this petty game that's gonna allow you to book more club appearances and movies to go straight to DVD. I'll leave you this." He then decided to self-incriminate himself by recording himself saying if he can't have a woman, then no one else can. Going on to say he'll make your life miserable. Kay was playing no games and Chris was served with a permanent restraining order claiming he punched her in the stomach twice, pushed her down the stairs, threatened to unalive her, and told others he'd do the same. The report that was soon enough leaked to the press also stated that Chris even threatened to shoot her. As you can guess, the public was flabbergasted. Taking to social media, Chris addressed the allegations playing victim, making everything out to be a Jacob York is trying to sabotage me pity party. He also claimed that he wasn't served with any papers and that if anything, he should be the one calling them stalkers. What's even more messed up is that they played off my past saying I abused her. Come on now, opening up old wounds to make Kay a victim? That's evil. Sad part, y'all believe it. Nobody will care about them if my name isn't involved. I want nothing to do with her. She doesn't need a restraining order from me. I need one from her. Doesn't matter what Chris was talking about because eventually Kay was granted the restraining order. Singer K. Cola, who's known Chris since he was a wee youngin', also spoke about his and Karrueche's relationship and practically confirmed everything Kay stated. In multiple tweets, K. Cola says she used to cry over hearing Karrueche screaming at the top of her lungs and said that she heard Chris be Kay herself. Replying to one comment, K. Cola said that when Chris first got out of jail, he lived with Karrueche and some other people above her, and she often called the police because she would hear altercations. She and her manager even got into it with him one time. Cola went on to say that women literally get murdered by men like Chris, and y'all think it's cute or claim Karrueche just wants attention? And if you're really a Breezy fan, you would want him to get help and not make excuses for everything he does. Aside from his ex being forced to go the legal route, the list of people, celeb and non-celebs alike he's come for over the years is probably longer than the Great Wall of China. Calling Zendaya Marie Coleman to the stage. As we all know, the oh-so-beautiful and multi-talented Zendaya has been killing the red carpets and has established herself as a big-time actress, winning numerous Emmys for her role in Euphoria. But did you know our girl dabbled in music? Back in 2016, she released a track called Something New, featuring no other than Chris himself. Despite how hot the track was and despite a music video being filmed for the song, it was never released, and Zendaya has hung up her music shoes ever since. Chris probing Daya to release the vid years later. Well, not only did Z not release the video, but fans noticed she unfollowed Chris. And why? Folks believed that it had everything to do with Chris poking fun at a friend of Zendaya's who attempted to unalive herself. The friend in question being the singer Kehlani. After posting a series of nasty tweets, Zendaya, along with a few other celebs, one being singer Tinashe, pressed the unfollow button. Chris was really out here looking like Bozo the Clown, thinking he was standing up for his homeboy. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving, the man Kehlani was dating at the time, and Chris's friend, came out and clarified that he and Kehlani weren't even together when the artist Party Next Door posted a photo of himself with Kehlani. This prompting fans to believe that Kehlani was cheating on Kyrie with P&D. A few others we have to mention are of course Tinashe, who was verbally attacked unprovoked after Chris felt disrespected when she responded to a question during an interview with 106K Mel's Shay Diddy, saying how she didn't think follows on Twitter were that big of a deal to her. If I see him, I would love to speak to him. I would love if he would reach out. We're on good terms as far as I knew. Needless to say, they were not on good terms because Chris came with the vengeance. I hope she talked about her career for most of this interview. Who is Shay? Tinashe? I hope they rehearsing for those performances, so give her credit though. 16-year-old hobbit face. We want music. Teach me how to jerk face. Then we have Miss Cheetah-licious, former Cheetah Girl, host of The Real, Adrienne Bailon, along with the Tamar Braxton, whom Chris verbally harassed unprovoked after the two co-hosted a segment on their talk show The Real, discussing Chris and Karrueche's relationship. During the rant, he addressed Adrienne as a trout-mouthed bitch and went on to ask, wasn't she the same one messing with married men? You can't talk about relationship goals when you don't even have life goals. Last time he was important, Ninjas was riding spinners and wearing 6X tall tees. He then dragged Sister Tamar into and intentionally addressed her as Tamara Braxton. You take the role of the ugly sister. It's always the people with no career that talk the most crap. That plastic surgery effed up your face. Muppet face. Hashtag basic bitch problems. That girl is beating every photo. Tamar made it very clear that as a talk show host, she has the right to talk about things such as relationships. Nobody was coming for your little relationship, Christopher. She did end up apologizing, however, but made it very clear he had the game effed up, similar to his reputation. You ain't her man nor her daddy, Chris. Adrienne responded by wondering who on earth said anything bad about his relationship. Adrienne is cool with Karrueche in real life and would never. Look, it appears as if this list of women and men Chris has gone off on is never ending. And of course there are incidents that have been proven false, but that doesn't mean Chris Brown is off the hook. As recently as 2023, the people are conflicted on whether or not Chris should be forgiven for his past behavior. Or if his past behavior ain't so much in the past after all. If Rihanna moved on, then so should we, right? Well, sure. But as we know now, Rihanna isn't his only victim. And all of these leave Chris alone comments won't help him much. If anything, all they seem to do is be enabling his antics. Chris Brown is one of the most talented entertainers of our time. The dude has perfected the formula to make a hit, and his impact is like no other. However, maybe it's time we finally call a spade and realize that our faves aren't exactly who we'd hoped they'd be. You can argue about others getting away with much worse. You can even try to bring race into. Which to that, I can counter your claim and argue that while yes, our fellow palm-colored people do get away with things POC often don't get away with, other accused black abusers have also gotten off the hook as well. Terrence Howard and Mike Tyson, anyone? And with that, I think it's time to wrap this up. Do you think people should give Breezy grace and move on? Or do you believe the only thing changed about Christopher is his album titles? Let us know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. And stay tuned for more true celebrity stories.